All right, welcome back, y'all, to Mental Health in Our Community. I'm excited for this final segment with Dr. Akilah, where I just want to talk with you about your own personal journey. It has been such a joy to watch you. Like she shared, she and I have gone to grad school together, and so I've seen you perinatal, postpartum, and now in full motherhood, and then full motherhood as a mom, as a professional, as a partner. And so it's just been an honor to watch you. I'm very, very, very proud of you. And I really think that people can benefit from hearing your journey. So tell us about, you started with child psychology as your specialty. You shifted your focus. You have moved, got your certification in your specialty. And so talk to us about that journey. What led to it? And then let that take you into your own post perinatal and postpartum journey.
Sure. So I loved working with kids. I've always loved kids. I think for me, thinking about mental health conditions and working with folks, for me, children were just hopeful. I thought
Mm,
that there's a lot of hope and
mm,
excitement and energy working with children. And so that's what I wanted to do. And you saw all the training and all the years of experience I got with that. As I started to work with kids, what I didn't realize at the
mm,
time initially was that parents needed to be really involved. And that was a surprise for me because I think in my thoughts, having not a lot of experience with parenthood or none, obviously no experience, but I just thought I'm going to work with the kids and we're going to have fun. I'm
mm,
going to teach them
mm,
about feelings and about emotions. And I realized that in order for in many ways for real change to happen, it had to be comprehensive change, and a lot of that change had to do with parents, honestly.
mm.
I'll never forget, I was working in an inpatient hospital, and one of the teens was like, you all give us all these skills, you teach us all this, and then we go right back home, right back to the
Mm,
same environments. And it really struck me. I think that was the beginning of my shift
mm. Okay.
into
Mm,
working with adults. And then I also think some of this was just personal shifts in my life as I began to learn more about life, be exposed to more things, and move into motherhood myself, as well as acknowledging that in order to work with children, I needed to work with parents. And in many ways, I felt like working with parents and helping support them was maybe the best opportunity to support children.
mm. Okay, I love that. I love it. It was like experience, wisdom, insight, perspective. Because clients got ways of leaving things with you that shift you in this case significant way. So tell us your journey, your perinatal journey. What was most notable for you? And I guess I'm curious what you wish you have known
Yeah.
then that you know now, being on the other side and also being a provider to women who are going through it and also trying to get to the other side.
All the things we talked about. So,
She
like,
said,
what?
"You name it, what we've covered. Go back and listen." That's what it
Yes.
is.
I don't know what I was thinking, but I always wanted to be a mother. It was the one thing that I wanted just as
Mm,
much as I wanted to be successful. Like as much as I
really?
wanted to be a successful professional and even being in the
Mm,
media and businesses and things like that. I envisioned all of those alongside of being a mother and having children that I
mm,
could participate in their lives and they participate in my lives, even professionally. There's
mm,
always going to be some cross. So this has
mm.
been a lifelong dream of mine.
So
I
wait, can I
also,
pause you there? Because I've heard
Mhm.
you say that a couple of times, and I'm
Mhm.
always curious, what was it about being a mom specifically that you just, or was it just natural? It was just intuitive. You just felt like this is what I want to
Okay.
do, or is it with your love of kids and you felt like, or all the things?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think deeply about why it was so important to me. I mean, obviously I love kids, and so maybe that like I wanted, a kid of
Mm,
my own that I, just could love and to pour into. Probably it had to do with my own mother, how attached
mm,
I was to her and how much
mm.
love and adoration and respect I have for her. And so I would say probably those things.
Okay.
I will be remiss to say that probably society has something to do with it. I don't
Mhm.
think that I was devoid of being impacted probably by socialization and maybe pressures that some women experience or many of us experience that we need to have kids or should have kids. I think sometimes there are these messages. So I don't know that that's the driving force, but I don't want to leave that off the table that maybe that contributed to this as
Got it,
well.
got it, got it. So whatever the force was or whatever percentage that contributed to it, you knew you wanted to be this mom. And
Yes.
so now it was synonymous with success, media, all the things, now being a mom, and then you get ready to go through your journey and you experience things within your journey. What was that like? And did you experience any postpartum blues or any postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression? And what did your recovery phase look like?
Sure. So I found out that I had before even, getting pregnant and things, I found out I had infertility. So for me, that was a huge blow.
Mm,
And I want to say that things like infertility or pregnancy loss or child loss are also huge pieces of like the perinatal field.
mm,
And for
mm,
me, experiencing infertility was devastating. It was a blow.
mm,
I couldn't imagine not being able to like live the life that I had imagined having a child in the way that I thought and really wanted to have a child.
mm,
I think a lot of the struggles that I had during the perinatal phase also may have began during infertility.
mm, mm,
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of the things that I'm experiencing, I would say is in hindsight. Like
mm.
this is why I really want to harp
I
on
see, I
family and
see.
friends knowing
Mm.
what's going on because I don't even being a provider, and at the time I wasn't necessarily seeing a lot of
Operating in that capacity, you
yeah.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I actually didn't really a lot of things I'm going to tell you that I experienced, I didn't know until afterwards.
Listen, this is one of the reasons why I tackled premenstrual dysphoric disorder in
Okay.
this series is because I experienced it and I didn't know I was experiencing it until I was like, let me pull out my DSM because I feel like something is off. So I get
Yes.
it, and because you're not always operating as a psychologist in your life, you're just
Yes.
living life, and life is happening to you just as it's happening to everybody else. And so hindsight is 2020.
Exactly. And also I will say that again, my encouragement to the field is to make sure that we at least get some training because I will say that initially I didn't have any and
Mm,
all the training that I've received is me going out and getting it and so I will also say that some of that like earlier on I didn't even have the initial training and the doctoral program for that specifically.
mm.
So yeah, so for infertility, and I also think some of the hormonal changes that I was experiencing when I was going through infertility treatments, perhaps that contributed to
Ah,
this.
those hormonal shifts.
Yeah, I was on
That.
a lot of different, medications. I had
Mm,
several or at least multiple procedures in order to conceive.
mm,
So and then from there, I went into the pregnancy. So I would like to
mm,
say that probably a lot of this just was a heavy year. It was also the year of COVID.
mm,
So I'm thinking that all of these were all in the mix.
mm,
And again, I never imagined infertility, but I do want to say that it's actually pretty common. I think
mhm,
stats say like 1 in 8 couples experience infertility.
mhm,
And I don't know the exact stats for women, but you might be surprised. Maybe like 10%, 11% of women
mhm,
experience infertility. So it's more common than maybe we imagine or think. Although in the last 5 years or so, I've realized and know a lot more people who've
mhm.
experienced infertility. So,
And we define infertility, right, as when you're
oh,
attempting to become pregnant for at least 6 months
yes,
without.
for women, I think for women over 35 is 6 months. For women
Okay,
under 35, it's a year. So attempting to become pregnant and having an inability to become pregnant.
got it.
So you might go and get some additional testing and things. And then I figured out the reason why I was experiencing
Mm,
infertility and going through surgeries and medical procedures and
mm,
medication to shift that and to make that change. I will say, like, for example, there were times where this is probably a telltale sign that I didn't really get. Would there be
mm,
times where my partner would find me in the closet just crying, just
mm,
crying, like
mm,
devastated crying. And
mm,
every time I think about like having a child or not being able to, just in
mm,
tears, just torn up, but also having, I mean, I was still working at a hospital. I was working
mm,
part-time in private practice. So I was still hustling and doing things
mm,
and going through all of these treatments and in COVID.
mm,
It's so funny that remember the week that I was on Taraji's that
mhm,
one episode I did
mhm,
the day before. that week I started some medication
Mm,
to, I think it was like moving towards trying to conceive. I was on some medication. I can't remember what it was called. But the day before that I filmed, I was at work in the inpatient hospital, and I started to feel super, super hot. And I legitimately was in rounds with my colleagues, the
mm,
psychiatrists, the social workers, and there were patients like, that we were working with. And I was like about to cry, full force cry in there. I held it barely enough together. I think I might have had to excuse myself, or I held it together just enough to
mm,
get to my office, bawling
mm,
for no reason. Like I didn't
mm,
even know. I
mhm,
wasn't even thinking about infertility at the time. I was just so emotional. And I really think some of it had to do with the medication I was on. I
mhm,
remember thinking, oh my God, I'm so scared tomorrow. What if I feel like
mm.
this
While I'm filming.
while I'm filming? Yeah.
Mhm,
So, okay, that's the journey for infertility.
mhm,
So then I get pregnant purposefully. And the
mhm,
truth is that, maybe if I didn't have infertility, I might have given myself a little bit more time. But because
mm,
I had infertility and because I'm consulting with my doctors, and at one point I almost like, oh, let's just wait. And they were like, we've done all of this work. Like,
mm,
honestly, if you want a child, now is the best time to do it. Like,
mm,
and so I was like, in my mind, when I was making a calculus, and for me the thought of not having a child was more
mm,
just it was more devastating than than like if I needed a little bit more time.
mm,
So that
mm,
was the calculus that I made, and me and my partner moved forward, and I was so happy. Like
mm.
I was so, so over the moon, so, so happy,
Mm,
so grateful. And then there were a couple of experiences early on where I would have like some vaginal bleeding, and I would be
mm,
freaked out. The first
mm.
time I went to the ER and I was told I might be having an ectopic pregnancy. It was so
Wow.
scary. They said they couldn't tell, they didn't know. The only way
Wow.
they find out is, you know, if they
Seeing
have,
through.
yeah, basically. So I
That
was
is so
really,
scary. That's so
yeah,
distressing.
it was. And I was so nervous. And so it ended up being just fine. But then I had another scare. And so
Mm,
these scares, they ended up
yeah.
honestly being not a thing because I have a child now,
Mm,
but they
mm,
were so scary. And this was a part of that journey.
mm.
Um,
I just had my client yesterday. She's close to the end phase of delivery. She's about a week out. And for our last two sessions, I've been having to see her from the hospital. Just these scares, right? And,
exactly.
and I appreciate the precaution that they're taking, but to me, it's like, coaching her through and being present and allowing her to process those emotions. But it's really that the scares in of themselves. I can see how doing this phase contributes.
Exactly. And then, like you mentioned earlier, we talked about in one of the earlier episodes, I was working, I was hustling, I was, I felt
Mm,
like I had just had this one media experience. And so I was like, I gotta hustle. And so in
mm.
my mind, this is why I tell you, I don't know what I was thinking. Because in my mind, I was about to hustle hard through pregnancy. And then once I
Mm,
gave birth, I take a little time off. So my
mm,
expectations were just warped by
mm,
what it would be like. So having those scares and then just the experience of pregnancy, for some people it's fine. For many people, it is not. I
mm,
was constantly sick.
mm,
The morning sickness was the worst thing because I'd rather just throw up, but it's like
mm,
the constant feeling of having to throw up
mm,
without actually having to.
mm,
I hated it. And then my mind, like I just had a lot of negative thoughts,
mm, mhm.
and I think I was just like I had a lot of stress from work, so I just was getting headaches,
Ooh,
wasn't feeling well. And honestly, I was a bore to be around. I couldn't take light, I couldn't take music. I would come
mm.
home. Honestly feel bad for my partner because I was just at some point I was just gone. Like I just mentally wasn't there. And I don't think I was, that's what I'm saying. I wasn't quite
Mm,
aware of it. I'm sure people could tell there were differences for me, but I just
mm,
kind of isolated and
mm.
slept a lot of the time. At least that.
Wow, those are like you
Yeah.
just listed the symptoms. You
Oh,
you talk
you
about
just
we
said it.
everything. I think this is a perfect case study of risk factors, right? Risk factors being that you had the medication, it was COVID, which was highly stressful. We and then that was a cloaked, or I would say colored by the socio-political climate and uncertainty. So you had those stressors, and then you had this hormonal shifts. And so part of the risk factors or that contributes to conditions in general is that
Mhm.
progesterone and estrogen kind of being off and the medication interrupting that. Then you've had infertility as a stressor. You have to go through that process, which is stressful. And stress, like interacting with the hormones or stress as a hormone, is difficulty. It will impact anybody's mood. And then now you're having scares and uncertainty and anxiousness. And so now you are dealing with isolation and insomnia or hypersomnia, it sounds like, and
Yeah,
feeling
I was just, it was the only
sleepy
time that I felt better because physically I didn't feel good. So I was just, let me just go to sleep because I know I feel better. And
during the whole phase. So this, it sounds like
it was during
depression.
the, yeah, yeah.
It's
In
like
hindsight,
depression.
it was, but in my mind, I was just like, I was fine. It just, in my mind, I was
Mm.
fine. I just was tired. I had headaches and I hated pregnancy. That's all I knew.
Ah, see the
And
language. We didn't have the language. This is so, what you just said is so powerful because how many times have we normalized that? Listen
yeah,
to everything we just said that Dr. Keela was going through. But
I
in her
know.
mind, this is just pregnancy. This is
Yes,
just pregnancy when really and truly there is some perinatal depression, or if not depressive symptoms for sure,
for sure, right? Yeah,
that's happening, that's impacting you. And so often we just push through and we just suffer through and not knowing that this is actually part of a complication of pregnancy that I'm experiencing that's in a significant way. But because we haven't been talking about it in this way, I don't know. So I'm just pushing through, and I got
exactly.
these warped expectations about how I'm supposed to hustle during this time.
Girl, why was I thinking that? Yeah. And so, yeah, so in hindsight, I would have communicated to my doctor. The only thing I really shared was that the nausea. And I think she maybe gave me some medication for that. And I think, but I didn't press it enough. I just thought, well, they say the first trimester is really bad. Let me just get through that. So
Mm,
I just was trying to get through the first trimester because I didn't know or ahead of time, but I was told that's the worst part. And
mm,
comparatively, it was. But again, I honestly think maybe I didn't have to suffer the way that I did.
mm, mm,
So in hindsight, I would have said something to someone, to a provider, to make sure that I had more of the supports that I needed. I
mm,
will say that I had one of my best friends she was a mom like way like earlier than a lot of my friends were, and so I
mm,
think she clearly understood. And so I
mm.
would talk to her, and I think that also because I was talking to her and I was just telling her all my stuff, like I think I felt like, oh, okay,
Ah.
well, I'm fine. I do talk to her, I tell her all my stuff, and then I go to sleep.
You had the support. You had part of the treatment plan that we talked about. You had part of the treatment plan. And I'm very grateful that you shared your journey. I think that we need both parts of this conversation. I think we need the clinical part, or three parts. I think we need the clinical part. I think we need the expertise, but the lived experience. We thank you for being gracious and
Yeah.
sharing your journey and your experience. And so I guess you kind of already said it, but I want to tie it up in a nice little bow. What would you say to that Akilah or other women who can identify with Dr. Akilah? I'm sorry. What would you say to that, Dr. Akilah? And what would you say to women who may identify with your story or pieces of your story or pieces of your journey? What's a wish that you would wish for them as they are learning about all of this and what it could entail?
I wish I had known what to expect and had a plan that I could and people that I would have communicated with that this is like I really need help
Mm,
and I really need more. I try to work with women to come up with a plan. It's I think we spend a lot of time on the postpartum phase planning.
mm,
But I do think that at least for me, though, that first trimester was the like so hard that when people are in the family planning stage, I would also be like talking about what you might need during pregnancy. Like even though the jobs tell us we still have to go to work, for some people, it's you may not be able to work in the same way.
mm,
So to plan for that before even giving birth, I would have communicated more with my friends and
mm,
not just one friend, but I would have communicated more to them. I don't know that I had the capacity to
mm.
communicate every single thing to every single person,
Yeah, yeah.
but I also probably I just would have worked less and
Mm,
did more for myself in
mm-hmm.
terms of self-care, showering, things like that. 'Cause those are things that
Small
micro
things.
simple things, going outside, doing fun
Mm,
things. Those are things that again, I think I mentioned, but like after giving birth also, it was a struggle as well because it was just
mm,
hard and it was
mm,
COVID. And I just was indoors too much.
mm,
So
mm,
I would encourage people, if you start to notice these things, to mention it, to share it with some people. And this is really more also for a conversation for people around the person who's
mm,
pregnant or giving birth, that I don't know that in the moment. I mean, now I wouldn't know, but in that moment, at that point, I just wouldn't. I couldn't have seen it for myself. So
mm,
I think I would have needed
mm,
people who were around me to know it and to say something to me, and come up with a plan of support that made sense and would have helped me at least not suffer through pregnancy
mm.
and
I love
postpartum.
that. I love that planning and support. I wrote it down on my sticky note. Know what to expect and have a plan through the whole perinatal phase.
The whole
The
face.
whole perinatal phase. And so I am so grateful. I have learned so much. I'm so excited for my future journeys. I'm so excited to have you back in a professional capacity because you just have been such a rich resource for the community. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for offering your expertise. Again, thank you for sharing your journey. Thank you for sharing your tips and tools. Y'all soak it in. Share this with someone. Share this with a family member. Share this with a friend. Share this with a colleague. Use it, save it, like it for yourself to refer to in the future if you're planning on being a mom. Thank y'all so much for tuning in for this episode. Y'all stay tuned for more mental health in our community. We have more to unpack.